So, welcome to the
Thank
event.
you.
You served as president of Mexico from 2006 to 2012, a period during which you hosted the Cancun Summit for Climate Change. And ever since that day, you were pretty much involved in the environmental issues. So, what made you realize that this was the fight that you wanted to engage in particular?
Well, it's a long story. It started with my father. I would say my father was a visionary,
Yeah.
by the way, quite much older than me. When I was born, he was 51 years
Okay.
old. However, he started to talk about environmental issues in the 60s and 70s.
So quite early,
Maybe
yeah.
he read some not popular, very important research at that time, The Limits of Growth and the Club de Rome report and something. So he started with that. And he was a man who loved the planet. He taught me how to plant a tree, how
Yeah.
to seed. So was a fantastic man. That's the reason.
So you wrote the new climate economic report with Nicholas Stern, the economist, where you explained that we can actually create lasting economic growth while also tackling climate change. And this goes really against some general opinion about environment protection and prosperity.
I know that's the problem, but honestly, what we have discovered in our research is that it is not true. That's a false dilemma. We can have economic growth, and at the same time, we can tackle climate change. But in order to do so, we need to change three big systems: energy, cities, and land uses, which it could take short-term costs, but those costs will be overwhelming payback in the medium term. So actually, we believe the only way to have sustainable growth is precisely reducing carbon emissions and jumping all the way to the low carbon economy. Because this model is exhausted. This model is not providing growth. Bigger cities are damaging your money, your pocket, your time, your salary. You are taking 1 or 2 hours a day to get your place for work. You are losing money, and the economy is losing the money of your job. So, uh, examples, for instance, renewable energy. Solar cells in a roof can provide an incredible saving for the consumers,
Yes.
and they can reduce global carbon emission. Forestry, for instance, in a rational manner, commercial plantation could provide a lot of economic benefits and at the same time to capture carbon from the atmosphere. And other retrofitting buildings in order to save
Yes.
energy could save a lot of money for the people living there and could reduce a lot of emissions. So win-win situation in a lot of projects we were talking in the report about.
And you said, I think in your talk, that 60% of the energy is actually used on buildings.
Yeah, basically related with
Yeah,
energy.
related
Yes,
to
yes,
buildings. So
yes.
sustainable infrastructures and smart cities should be something we should focus on before everything else.
Yeah, not before, but among other things, buildings and cities is a crucial thing. I know we cannot destroy them. We must not destroy and reinvent
Yes.
and recreate. But definitely we are going to receive 1 more billion people in probably 12 years around the globe. That implies to build a city like Paris every 2 months. So how could be the new cities for all those people should be in a different way than today, more based upon massive transportation system, more based upon mobility, including mobility for pedestrians, cycling,
Yes.
an integrated, comprehensive massive transportation system, and even the buildings we already have. We need to work on them in order to save energy, in order to save water, in order that will increase the comfort for the people, will reduce the money they expended, and that would be a win-win situation for the pocket
Yeah,
and for the
sure.
environment.
And fading out. So, what seems to be the problem? What's taking us so long? Even for companies, it's really a good incentive, the economic growth. Why haven't solutions been
One
invented
is
yet?
we need to widespread this message that it is
Okay.
possible, it's affordable, and it's profitable to do the right thing by doing well with the environment. Second, we need to get more clear economic incentives, economic signals from all the governments. Because if suddenly a government state to subsidize gasoline, for instance,
Yeah.
what is happening in a lot of developing countries, it's a ground signal for that. If providing subsidies for fossil fuels is exactly a ground signal, but if we start to see carbon pricing everywhere, we will see that it is possible, and we will see a lot of movers in the economic side jumping into the new track,
Yes.
jumping into the new climate economy. So we need much more clear signals from the government. And finally, we need to fix some problems associated with financing,
Yes.
because it's a long-term solution, but it requires, in some cases, upfront capital upfront, and we need to. But it could be finance, and that will be the solution, definitely.
All right. You know that technology consumes a lot of energy. I'm thinking of data centers and even computer parts that are barely recyclable. How would you address this issue?
Well, a very important issue. First, we need to say that what we are living is an incredible explosion of data. But think about the cloud, for instance.
Yes.
The cloud marked an innovation in technology that allow us to have less servers per capita, to say that, not to say that, no? In that sense, the technology itself provided a solution. But now we need to move forward how to provide refrigerators or air conditioning for all those servers everywhere. And we need to improve the condition and the quality of air conditioners everywhere and isolation of the buildings. Second, technology has in its hands the possibility to provide solution for recycling all those devices. It is important to do that. Other, we have some patterns of consumption which is not exactly good. Why do we need to change our mobile phones every 6 months or
Yeah,
every year?
definitely. Yes.
It's not exactly rational. It's not exactly sustainable. It's a question of, or you know, the fancy package you receive a mobile phone. No, it's a big box with an incredible thing stuff, which is completely useless. So we need to change the mentality from the consumers and
Yes.
the producers, and to do small steps that could be important in the right direction.
All right. And I have one last question. As president of Mexico, you must have been confronted to a great divide between rich and poor people. When you're poor, you don't really have a choice, and even your economical freedom is pretty much taken away. How would you address poverty and environment at the same time?
Well, actually, poor families suffering the most the consequences of climate change. So I know that because we suffer a lot. When it's a hurricane
Yes.
or floods, the poorest families are living beside the rivers. They suffer the floods and they are victims of such catastrophes more than the rich people, that they have no problem at all. So we need to work for them in a very important manner, even more than anyone else. Now, for the poorest families, changes in the right direction are important. Let me talk about Africa, for instance.
Yes.
A lot of towns and cities in Africa and in other developing countries, even in Mexico and Latin America, where poor families live, we can make some kind of leapfrog for them.
Yes.
We can avoid to repeat the mistakes we made ourselves. No? For instance, with highways or everything based upon the individual cars, whatever. Now we need to build for them massive transportation system. Poor families are allocating a lot of money for transport on a daily basis. And a waitress in a fancy hotel here in Paris, for instance, maybe he or she needs to take 2 hours or 1 hour and a half of their life to get their places. In Mexico City, 3 or 4 hours even.
Yes.
So we need to change that equations, and the benefit will be for the poor families in first place, in my opinion.
And so, how do we change that? How do we help these countries develop sustainable solutions? Where do we get the money for that?
Well, providing clear economic incentives, pricing carbon, clear signals, fixing the problem of financing, and it's possible. And also, we need to allocate some kind of global market associated with carbon emission reduction. For instance, if one rich country can and wants to help a poor country, if the poor country is committed to reduce carbon emission, either establishing a cycling system in the city or
All right.
promoting plantation, rational or well exploited plantation
Yes.
for trees, the financing could be afforded by a rich country, and there will be a payback in the future. So we need to work a lot, I agree, but it is possible. That's the message.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.